Hello and welcome to your daily dose of Satoshi's news. Today's day is Monday, the 4th of August, 2025. The year BSV comes alive. Branch your threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai or your post on chain. Right, let's see what we have got today. We've got this fantastic article here by on Anna's Substack called "Crossing the Bridge." Let's see if we can just bring this one up. This is Anna Iverson. She's done a fantastic article here, which we will have a read through because sounds great, and obviously she's worked really hard on that. So looking forward to going through that. CSW said Chapter 8 has been released. Section 7 of the white paper reclaiming disk space. We'll go on about that. Gavin Lucas says the biggest comeback in the history of technology is coming. I can feel it in the air. Can you? I think we all can. I think we all know what's going to happen. Reverend Diego says BTC is down 5% since the official White House crypto report that defines BTC as a fork of Bitcoin. That's hilarious. And Bond.17 also says that BTC is arguing over store of value versus medium of exchange. Honestly, they're like utterly clueless. We'll have a quick look at the figures. We've got some 365 days of Bitcoin history, and then that'll be the end of the show. Right, let's get into it.
Greg says he's Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. Just wait for the Terra node, you'll surely see.
Alrighty, here we go. Check it out. So Anna's Substack here, crossing the bridge. How stablecoins on BSV begin the transition from debt illusioned to abundant value. Interesting. Well, that's provided. The thing is, though, all stablecoins that are backed by fiat are still effectively debt tokens. What you really need is an issuer like credit notes, like the Bradbury Pound, that are issued with no debt. Because there should not be any debt attached to anything that doesn't have any substance that's made up from nothing. But this is literally the clown world that we're living in right now, that we could fix with credit notes, built on BSV and use of BSV to counter the effects of inflation of the credit notes. But at the moment, in the debt-based system that we're in, we're dealing with debt and usury and inflation all at the same time, which is why the economy is going to shit, funnily enough. So it starts off with the problem most people can't name. Modern life, the modern economy feels hollow, and most people can't quite put their finger on why. We work more, yet somehow feel less secure. We know we've created value, but do we reap the rewards? We're told inflation is inevitable, that debt is necessary, and though rarely admitted, prosperity must come at someone else's expense. Yeah, because there's winners and losers, those who reap interest and those that don't. Meanwhile, financial markets accumulate riches by investing instruments no one understands, creating wealth, printing currency from nothing, creating wealth that seems to float even further from real life. Something in our system is upside down, but it hides behind complexity and euphemisms. At the core of it is a simple truth. We no longer transact in real value. We transact in abstractions. Our modern system is based on debt. Money is borrowed into existence. Currency, securities. That's why securities fraud. Burdened from birth with interest and guarantees, scarcity, as the amount we owe will always exceed the amount created, making expansion a necessity. The systematic imbalance gives rise to inflation and ensures a zero-sum game where winners require losers. Absolutely. Financial institutions don't merely serve productive enterprise. They interpose themselves between people and value, extracting rent, creating masterful financial engineering tools, and profiting from volatility rather than creation. This isn't just inefficient, it adds no value. In fact, it extracts value. It is parasitic. Absolutely, it is. We've normalized a system where meaning has been stripped from money, where digital records of promises and trade have been replaced the substance of economic activity. In doing so, we've divorced finance from reality, law from economy, and human creativity from reward. This article explores a possible way out. Oh, BSV has got to be mentioned here. The bridge: will stablecoins be employed as the Trojan horse? If our current monetary system is a house built on sand, then stablecoins are the first glimpse of a bridge to a firmer ground. But that bridge comes disguised, and very few recognize its true function. On the surface, stablecoins appear to be yet another crypto fad, digitized tokens pegged to fiat currencies like the US dollar and brought to life by any number of issuers. But look deeper, and a more strategic picture emerges. Properly constructed, a lawfully issued stablecoin functions as an access point to a more grounded economy, one where data can be exchanged for real value, and where the underlying infrastructure is no longer controlled by rent-seeking intermediaries. Here is the geopolitical reality. The US is now engaging in the development of stablecoins not to promote freedom or decentralization, but to monetize its own debt. With dwindling global appetite for US treasuries, stablecoins, especially those backed one-to-one by US government debt, offer a powerful workaround. If potentially billions of people across the globe adopt dollar-backed stablecoins, they become inadvertent underwriters of US debt, exploiting inflation while importing global demand. Exporting inflation means pushing the monetary burden of debt-financed spending onto other countries. The US prints, the world pays. It's a subtle form of monetary colonialism. It mirrors the euro dollar emanating from London in the mid-1950s, now created on-chain. It's a brilliant mechanism, but it's potentially also a Trojan horse, because in deploying the system, the US also opens the doors to blockchain infrastructure that is faster, fairer, and more transparent and legally sound than the existing banking model. The Trojan horse works both ways. It lets the US export debt, but also under the surface introduces a lawful, non-extractive blockchain infrastructure. The key question to ask is which blockchain becomes the foundation, and what happens once billions are onboarded to a system that no longer needs middlemen to assign value. This is where the true transition begins, from a debt-based illusion of value to a data-based economy of substance. Very good. The destination: data enables the move of real value. Once stablecoins have brought billions into digital rails, the question becomes what comes next? The answer lies in what those rails are truly capable of. If built on scale, economically sustainable and legally sound infrastructure, they do far more than move fiat currency around. They allow data itself to become the new asset class, not in the speculative sense, but in a legal enforcement and revenue-generating one. This is where the transition from a debt-based system to a value-based economy truly takes root. On a blockchain like BSV, the only blockchain with the ability for unbounded scalability, IP to IP architecture, and legally finality baked in at a protocol level, every piece of meaningful data, a contract, a song, a scientific model, a creative work, can be timestamped, owned, licensed, traded, and rewarded at the micro level. This is not tokenization of specialization, but commoditization of digital value, legally enforced and economically functional. That does not require permission from a financial institution. It does not require a bank account, venture capital, or layers of legal intermediation. It requires only a secure identity, a lawful digital commodity protocol, and the ability to transact in data as value. This is the economy of inclusion, not to be confused with charity. It is not redistribution of wealth, but the rewriting of how wealth is created in the first place. It turns the internet from a surveilled-based attention economy, top-heavy from big tech centralization, into a consent-based value economy. And it turns blockchain from a speculative playground into the backbone of the new financial order. The governance incentives aligned, not extracted. One of the most remarkable aspects of data-driven economy based on sound legal foundation is how it realigns incentives that have long been in conflict. In the debt-based system, the interests of governments, banks, corporations, and individuals are often at odds. Governments seek to inflate away debt, banks seek to extract fees and control flows, corporations chase growth through centralization and surveillance, individuals are left competing for diminishing returns in a rigged game. But in a value-based system built on blockchain infrastructure like BSV, The incentives begin to converge rather than collide. Here's how. Governments gain lawful visibility and tax enforceability without needing surveillance, capitalism, or capital controls. Entrepreneurs and creators gain tools to monetize their work directly, from micropayments to revenue sharing without gatekeepers. Investors gain exposure to real-world digital commodities with utility-based value rather than abstract speculation, with new instruments allowing for lawful revenue sharing. The public gains control over their own data and the ability to benefit economically from its use, turning privacy into enforceable property. Legal system gain a new layer of truth infrastructure where contracts and transactions can be proven, enforced, and restored. Our current extractive rent-seeking model becomes unnecessary, not by force or revolution, but by the quiet structural obsolescence of a system that requires it. This is what makes blockchain, when done right, not just a financial upgrade, but a civilizational correction. It brings logic, economics, and law back into harmony, aligning incentives through code, visibility, and enforceable truth. This convergence is not utopian. It is systemic, but only when built on the right architecture, lawful, scalable, and open. From illusion to peace, what a value-based economy brings. A world built on scarcity will always be a world in conflict, not just militarily, but psychologically, spiritually, and economically. It teaches us to hoard, to fear, to compete for crumbs. It reduces humans' potential to survival games and financial abstractions. But that scarcity is not natural, it's engineered. Absolutely is. When value is defined by debt and wealth is built on volatility, extraction becomes the default. When the money itself requires repayments with interest, someone always loses. The result is a constant low-grade tension between nations, classes, even neighbors, friends, and family, as we're all set up to compete over what has been artificially limited. But what if value created could expand with every act of creativity? What if truth and trust were not abstractions but part of the protocol? What if the infrastructure of our economy made stewardship more profitable than speculation? This is the promise of a value-based economy powered by blockchain, not the crypto casino based on price hype with no utility, but lawful infrastructure through BSV that transforms data into tradable substance. It is an economy where prosperity is earned, not extracted, creativity is rewarded, not appropriated, and participation is enabled, not gatekept. And most importantly, peace finally becomes structurally possible. Because when value is abundant and truth is enforceable, the illusion of competition evaporates in a world where creation is no longer a zero-sum game. Scarcity is not natural, it is engineered. Abundance, too, can be engineered by conscious design. We no longer need to fight over access, we build it. We no longer need to hoard, we generate. We no longer fear losing power, we share it. Why? Because the system rewards it. Fantastic stuff. This isn't just a monetary upgrade, it's the end of the parasitic era, the beginning of a civilization rooted in substance, not scarcity. The bridge is here, the protocol exists, and what we need now is the courage and clarity to cross. This article was inspired by the X-Space hosted by Gavin Mail on the 1st of August 2025. In particular, the comments made by a gentleman calling himself Mr. Ben. Thank you, Gavin, Mr. Ben, and all the other participants on the X-Space. Hey, fantastic. And then she's written a little bit about herself there. She said she spent more than 20 years as a financial services lawyer in the City of London, having worked for financial institutions, law firms, and consultancy firms, but left the profession in 2016 after the passing of her parents to cancer. This spurred her to embark on a new career in the health and well-being space, where she became involved in a number of startups and scaled up business ventures involving novel, unique technologies. Since leaving her first career in finance, Anna has committed herself to reimagining how the world of financial services could evolve to become aligned with human creativity, generating abundance rather than acting as impediments, forcing humanity to focus on survival instead of thriving. There is clearly more in store for humanity than what we've seen and experienced, and Anna has devoted her time and energy into projects supporting these endeavors in the knowledge that the pen is always mightier than the sword. Fantastic. What a great article there, Anna. Absolutely brilliant. Talking about people generating value and doing things because they need to, or because they should do, like stewarding things. I was just looking at this video earlier today. Jimmy Nugent has got this video out promoting sign split. So let's have a quick listen to this. See what he says.
21 years. I represented IP owners. I love intellectual property. Before my 10 years in the Bitcoin and blockchain industry, I was an IP and digital media lawyer in the US for over 21 years. I represented IP owners from small to the biggest Hollywood movie studios and even the entire Motion Picture Association of America. I loved working with all these creators. But do you know what I did not love? Having to track down who owned rights to IP assets, especially when there were multiple authors who split rights. For example, today, a Billboard Hot 100 charting song has an average of 4.5 credited writers and 2.4 producers. Each are entitled to some split of rights and revenue. But there is no single database to find these music rights holders. In fact, there is no global registry to find all forms of IP, copyrights, trademarks, patents, for all creators, for all countries. This is especially a problem for creative works subject to copyright protection, because there's no legal requirement that authors even register their works with a government copyright office to get legal protection. You can hold rights in unregistered works. So how do you find records of ownership that may not be registered anywhere? Now you understand my headaches every time my legal team had to track down who owned IP assets, whether there were split owners, the chain of title over many years, whether the rights had been transferred to an ex-spouse after a divorce or an estate after death, and even just current ID and contact information. This is also a problem for the IP owners themselves, who naturally want to protect their rights and actually get paid for use of their works. The global market impacted by these issues is tremendous. In 2024, all forms of IP and intangible assets generated $79 trillion in value. Within that, just the creative industries, such as music, film, digital content, alone have a market size of $2.9 trillion, projected to reach $4.2 trillion by 2033. If you're a user of content distribution platforms like Spotify and OnlyFans, you know that digital content creators have grown dramatically. This new creator economy is a $104 billion a year market expected to double by 2027, with more than 45 million professional content creators worldwide.
Yeah, interesting. Let's see what the solution is if we can find it.
Beyond our own sign split platform, even those operating with other databases and blockchains can connect to our APIs to access already verified KYC and IP asset data registered on SignSplit. Our goal is to become the universal source and mechanism for the world to identify IP owners and their assets.
Interesting. So this is SignSplit. Look, so they're saying one Web3 platform for all content creators. Really? Let's have a read a bit more. Leveraging blockchain's core functions, we build a universal infrastructure for verified data about intellectual property owners and assets, which can be accessed by any application using any database or any blockchain. This is true Web3. Join us on our journey. Interesting. Might have to look at science of it because they're saying like any blockchain. But the thing is, though, he says like any blockchain. He knows that in the future, the only blockchain that's going to exist is BSV. And he knows that. And he's specifically saying here, any blockchain. Well, all blockchains besides BSV are centrally controlled, economically worthless security offerings. You can't. They all have these scam tokens running on them. So, what? Jimmy being paid to mislead people here? Or is he not guiding SignSplit onto BSV? because that's what really needs to happen. It really needs to happen. But it just goes to show you the power and how people can be influenced by fraud, as in securities fraud, when they're being paid enough. Interesting. CSW says here, Chapter 8 release, Section 7 of the Bitcoin white paper, Reclaiming Disk Space, is now complete and published. This detailed chapter covers the pruning mechanism, evidentiary integrity, Merkle structure, and the economic logic of executional compression. The long-delayed simplified payments verification section is still underway, but will be finalized by Wednesday. Oh, all right, looking forward to that, Wednesday, 6th of August. Ream is fully updated on combined splitting value. That release remains on schedule for Friday. Yes, catching up, but closing the gap. That sounds like things are moving along nicely there. You know, all in time for Terranode. Beautiful, beautiful. And Gavin Lucas said here, the biggest comeback in history of technology is coming. I can feel it in the air. Can you? Yes, I can. And everybody who is following my channel knows that we've been in this. We've all been involved in this since 2017, 2018, pretty much. Yeah, when the BSV ticker symbol came to light, because we all want a peer-to-peer electronic cash for the world, a monetary system that creates a level playing field where data can't be cracked, hacked, altered, changed, or deleted, and we can see the truth. And again, all these rent-seeking, these intermediate parasites, intermediary parasites, should I say? Literally just skimming off the top, like just scamming people left, right, and center. Not going to need them anymore, but it can only happen with BSV, which is why all these parasites have created a $3.7 trillion shitcoin market. It's parasitic is what it is. And Reverend Diego says BTC is down 5% since the official White House crypto report that defines BTC as a fork of Bitcoin. Yeah, without even realizing it, but they've defined Bitcoin, not Gregcoin, unwittingly, not because they don't really understand what's gone on. Can you imagine when they find out? Oh dear, oh dear. And Bondoc17 said Bitcoin is arguing over store of value versus medium of exchange, of fighting over symptoms, not the root disease. Fiat currency debases your savings while debt-based systems collapse under their own weight. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the thing is that you've got morons like Peter McCormack saying, why do we need payment systems on BSV? We've got perfectly good systems for that already, like Visa, like MasterCard. Why do we need them on BSV? Why does BTC or Bitcoin need to be a payment system? I mean, honestly, this is the kind of like numpties that we're dealing with. Right, let's have I just closed that one. Let's have a quick look at the figures while we're hot on it. So we've got Bitcoin at $26. 24-hour high, 26.27, 24-hour low, 25.59. 24-hour, oh my goodness me, 24-hour trade volume, just 11 million. Just 11 million. Can you imagine? 9.6 billion? Can you imagine 9.6 billion trying to fit into a market that's just got an $11 million 24-hour trade volume? Amazing. Just like it looks like the price ticking up there over the last 24 hours. But large volumes of red coming in there. Breakdown CoinDCX. That's the Indian exchange, overtaking Huobi apparently here. Gate.io in third, Addiction in fourth. Liquidity though. XGO Exchange followed by HitBTC, then Changelly Pro, Bitmartin's Addiction. All right, let's have a look at the rest of the market. $3.7 trillion. Will it get over $4 trillion? That is crazy. Gregcoin just dipping to $114,000. Ethereum, $3,670. XRP, $3. BNB Binance token, like 761. I remember seeing that when it was like 60 cents. Oh, jeepers. Now it's $761. Oh my goodness me. That would have been all right. Putting a few funds in that and then switching them into BSV. However, I think with Binance, you can only withdraw like $300 a week. Good luck getting that amount of money out. Jeepers. Right, there we go. It's a, I'll just check the time here. No. Oh my God. All right, yeah. It looks like I've not been recording the screen there. So outro song, here we go.
The king still has one more move.